talking about the spring, you kind of start and end with quarterback, and I feel like social media is so polarizing, and with the last name like Manning, that just ratchets it up a notch. And so there's one side of the aisle that is ready to crown him, and talks about top 5 Heisman odds, and just hey, he'd be the number 1 pick if he left now for the NFL, let alone later. And then there's the other side of he's done absolutely nothing, and the truth is always somewhere in the middle, right? But there's the other side of he's only hyped because of his name. He's only hyped because he's done nothing. Let him prove it on the field. Like, what in the world's all the hype? As somebody with an intimate knowledge and somebody who is around and talks to people and sees things, what is a true assessment of where Arch Manning kind of falls, maybe within, you don't have to rank him, but like where he falls within the SEC, in your opinion, where he falls within college football quarterbacks? Obviously, if you're better in the SEC, you're probably better in that upper tier of college football, but where do you kind of slate him or think that his ability right now is?
Yeah, so I'll begin with this. He's the first high school recruit I ever saw that got built down and kind of torn down. Built up, torn down his senior year. It was the craziest thing. That's normally reserved for college or even pro athletes. So that's what the Manning name brings. And when you're ranked number 1 very early on, and I think the people that ended up ranking the Nicos of the world ahead of him are going to look bad. I'll say that. So, but that's part of it. But look, with Arch, I am in between on him. I think he has a world of talent. Okay, a world of talent. Could he be the number 1 pick in the draft one day? Man, he certainly has the frame, the skill set, and the mind to do it. But he's got to go do it on the field. There's a key piece to that. And if he hadn't started the Mississippi State game, at least he's got, and they were terrible, worst pass defense in the country, arguably, last year. But he still went out and performed in that game. He performed well in UTSA when he came in relief of an injured Quinn Ewers. The key, I think 2 keys for Arch. He is a guy that's an aggressive quarterback. He likes to throw the ball down the field vertically. Sark loves that, too, as a play caller, right? They didn't have all that with Quinn Ewers. He was not a good deep ball guy, especially along the sidelines outside the numbers. Well, now Sark has a guy that loves to throw it down the field and is good at throwing it down the field. So the positive, he's going to make some wild plays. The negative with any young quarterback is there's 2 things for guys that throw the ball down the field that you can't do. And that's deep late and that's late middle. And as a young quarterback, he had a couple of picks, a couple others that were close in his time on the field in those situations. He's a young quarterback that's very aggressive. So that is an area to watch at any quarterback's maturity. Deep late, late middle. College coaches put their hands on their head every time you throw the ball, every time you throw that pass in that scenario. So that's like any young quarterback, especially ones that want to drive it down the field. So there's going to be growing pains with him. He's a first-year starting quarterback with the weight of the world on him, by the way. He's going to know what Rory McIlroy was talking about in the press conference. Let's be real. This is the weight of the world on a quarterback that started 2 games in college football. But I'll say this. Texas has really good talent around him. They have a really good team around him. He's taken on, from what we hear, the leadership role very, very well. Him and Michael Taft, Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, kind of the leaders. Arch Manning, the unquestioned leader of the offense. But I think the one thing he does for Texas next year, and why I think he has a chance to have a really good first year as a starting quarterback. And by the way, I don't think it'll be his only year as a starting quarterback. I will X out all the clickbait that's coming. Should he go, if he has a good game against Ohio State, he's going number 1, he's going to be gone. Just follow the Mannings. That's not what's going to happen here. The kid's going to start 2 years at Texas before he goes to the NFL. He's going to have had 4 years of development at college before he goes to the NFL. Eli actually had 5. Peyton could have come out after his junior year, been the number 1 pick. He didn't do it. He came back. The Mannings are about development. They want these kids to be ready to be quality pros when they get to the league. So we can stop the clickbait articles now. The guy's going to play 2 years of college football, even if he looks really, really good in year 1. But I think he's got the competitiveness. I think he's got the toughness. I think he's got the leadership around all the things you see as far as his talent goes. I think he'll have a good year because I think it's a really good fit with Steve Sarkisian. Having Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore back, now adding Emmett Mosley. He has experienced receivers, not guys with 4 years of experience, but he's got experienced college receivers around him. I think a tight end ad's going to be big for him. But I think Arch is going to look. when you've sat for 2 years and whether you're the number 1, 2, or 3 ranked player in America, there's a motivation that comes with that. Man, I was patient. I waited my turn. And you are really, really prepared. Because of his patience, he's really prepared to take this job right now. Again, he's got the weight of the world. He can ask Rory McIlroy about it. It's the weight of the world in college football. But I think the guy's going to have a really solid year. And I've heard he's been very good in spring practice, as expected.
I'm going to take a quick break from Texas, and just because of where he's from, I do want to get your thoughts on it. I don't think there's like a rivalry brewing here, but we do have a really fun matchup coming up on October 5th. And so I do just want to get your, maybe not as in depth there, but just your quick thoughts, kind of the same question for Lagway. I know that maybe because of where he's from, you've got a little bit of good insight. We got to see Lagway play basically the whole year last year. What are your thoughts there?
I think it's interesting because they're similar quarterbacks. DJ Lagway, and I'm not going to say they're going to be drafted the same. Don't take it out. People take it out of context, but they're similar in this. They both throw it down the field really well, and they both want to throw it down the field really well. And what comes with that is, look, you may have a game with 3 interceptions against a really good team because you may throw that deep late or that late middle as you grow as a quarterback. But look, he has given Florida program life, in my estimation. Now, and I think Billy Napier, they've recruited good players, but he has given the program and the fan base life again. And it's not like they were dead, don't get me wrong, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, he brought them some energy that maybe they've lacked, and the excitement, and maybe the Florida fans are feeling like, oh my gosh, we've given up on Billy Napier, but maybe him and DJ Lagway are going to turn the corner here because you also have an NFL running back that's really dang good in Jaden Ball. My only concern with DJ is I hope that shoulder injury. I mean, when you're limited throwing in the spring, like people would say, oh, anything anybody says, I'm kind of like going to roll my eyes. I'm about, look, dude, young quarterbacks need reps. If you're taking away reps, he has some sort of a shoulder issue. That doesn't mean it's going to be career ending, season ending, anything like that. But you don't take away a young quarterback's reps just to take him away. He obviously has something going on there that they're going to be protective of. But he's given this Florida fan base a lot of excitement, and now they believe they can turn the corner under Billy Napier. And I'll say this: I think it's helping their recruiting too. I think it's given them a little more juice in recruiting. Now, some of that could be, Florida State struggles at the same time because, as you know, living in that state, the program that's up, the programs that are kind of what's going to happen with them, man, that factors into recruiting so heavily. But Florida has more juice on the. I cover these kids; they have more juice on the recruiting trail than they've had, and I think DJ Lagway is a big part of that. And that game, assuming both these guys are healthy, they both take care of business, is going to be awesome. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, look, Steve Spurrier he's talked a lot of good trash about the beating Peyton Manning over the years. We'll see what he has to say when Arch Manning rolls in.
Dude, yeah, Allie's got to get Spurrier on this week to take a crack, or that week to take a crack, because he's always down for some crap talk. Florida State plays Miami that weekend in Tallahassee, and I pray that somehow the games get shifted. Florida State's got to bye before, or Miami's got to bye before and after. I'm praying that somehow that game gets shifted off of that weekend. I mean, zero chance, but so that I can go to the Swamp and watch Arch and Lagway. But all right, back to Texas Spring, which is what we were really talking about quickly, and then we'll talk about the schedule more than just that Florida game. Position groups that have impressed you, or players that have really taken a jump, and then maybe some position groups that kind of still give you pause, you want to see a little bit more out of in the second half of spring?
Great question. Look, I think Texas is going to have the best group of linebackers they've had in many years. Look, Anthony Hill is going to be a first-team All-American. Everybody knows that. Leon Galafal's coming back now in year 3 in the middle. Ty Anthony Smith, the young, now sophomore, flashed really well as a freshman. But then you bring in Brad Spence from Arkansas. Trey Moore, who played predominantly edge, dropped a little bit last year, is playing more at linebacker this spring. Does that mean he's just going to be a linebacker next season? We're not saying that. But then you have a young kid like Elijah Bo Barnes, who is top 35 kid in the country. Texas has more SEC size, speed, versatility, and depth at that position than I've seen in many years. If any years I've covered Texas. Honestly, they have some real talent at linebacker. I think the edge room, I think Colin Simmons arguably He's having a great spring. Could be the best player, a defensive player in college football next year if he stays healthy. I think that much of him. I think his BGO is that special. His ability to impact the game is that special, and he makes players around him better because of that elite pass rush trait. So I think the edge position is going to be really good for Texas. Look, I think corner opposite Manny Muhammad, Jalen Gilbo's moved from nickel out there. How does that go long term? I know everybody's like, oh, maybe it'll be the same as Johnny Barron last year. Johnny Barron was a great player. He's going in the first round for a reason. Very instinctive, made amazing plays, instinctive plays as a football player. But I think Texas has good depth in the secondary, younger kids, though. So I think defensively, I like where they're at in terms of their talent, in terms of their roster. Just need to add maybe one more interior defensive lineman to the mix. If there's a special edge guy that pops in the portal, yeah, they'd go after him. Offense, look, I think tight end is a big question mark right now. We mentioned that Jordan Washington, the redshirt forever sophomore, was injured this spring. He's out this spring. They got to score in the portal at tight end, get some experience there to help an inexperienced Arch Manning. Because Sark says tight end, second most important position in his offense. I think wide receiver, the addition of Emmett Mosley, I feel a little bit better about that. The freshmen are really talented, but you don't want those guys to play a lot of snaps in Columbus, Ohio to start the year in what will be an unbelievable atmosphere with Arch Manning rolling into the play the defending national champs who happen to beat you in the semifinals. That's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere in Columbus. And then offensively, I think the running backs staying healthy. Look, Trey Weiser, we're hearing, has made another nice jump from sophomore to junior year. James Simon, the freshman's been really good, better than expected. Then there's Christian Clark, he's a fast healer in life. That's a good place to be. He's already back on the field, cutting full speed after an Achilles injury in August. And he's looked really good. Cedric Baxter will probably come back early in the season. So as long as they keep that position healthy, I think it's looking better than it was going into the spring, because we wondered about the health of Christian Clark. What was the timeline for a Cedric Baxter, which is going to be early in the season? And then what's the freshman James Simon going to look like? We figured he'd be ahead of schedule, and he is. And then kicker is a big one, because, look, Bert Auburn lost his confidence. The right hash was a complete mystery. Cost him an SEC championship, arguably. So that kicker situation, I think, between him and Will Stone, that competition's actually never talked about enough, right? But there is a competition there. The punter out of the portal was huge. I think he's an All-American level punter. Boo Meester, who's originally Pro Kick Australia guy who's at Utah. So I think they filled some needs, but as a tight end, they have work to do there. I think interior defensive line, they still have some work to do there. And then at the secondary spots, it's more of finding that right mix of guys with the addition of Mark Orfett, corner coach, and Dwayne Akeen as safety coach. So they're kind of reshuffling some positions there a little bit, getting the right five guys, the best five guys on the field, I think is going to be the whole key.
Yeah. Kicker's kind of like offensive line. Like you don't want to think about them. And if you are mentioning the kicker, it's almost never in a super positive way. I mean,
by the way, I didn't even mention
there are the Vinatieri's and stuff like that, but kicker, you don't want to talk about kickers because it's usually bad.
It's usually bad. That's right. And like an official, if we're talking about an official, flag, right? But I should have mentioned offensive line, because that was one of the bigger questions Texas fans had going in. We've heard Trevor Gooseby, who'll be starting left tackle, who got some invaluable experience due to injury last year, has looked really good. Neto Umeozulu will be a first-year starter at left guard. Third year in the program's looked really good. Cole Hudson moves to center. DJ Campbell's had his best spring at right guard. And the freshman right tackle, Brandon Baker, looks to be winning that battle with Andre Kojo. The surprise of all the freshman kids, the 22 early enrollees at Texas, Nick Brooks, remember the name, Texas fans. He's out of Grayson, Georgia. Some people had as a high 3-star. We had him as a 4-star, top 150 level kid off my senior year evaluation of him. He has gone way past expectations. He's running second team left tackle and even gotten in the battle a little bit at right tackle. So remember the name Nick Brooks, young offensive tackle, going to be a player.
Texas fans or fans of any college football team that happens to tune into this, make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you are also following us on social media and wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, whatever. We've got more content with Gerry coming soon, so you don't want to miss that. Hit the subscribe button on your way out. We'll talk to you soon.